Speaker, it was about a year ago the Prime Minister tried to push through changes to Parliament's rules to silence the opposition. Now, that attempt ended in complete failure and he had to back down. But yet, here he is again, at it again, wanting to centralize his power. This time he wants to shut down debate and he only wants to show up for question period 1 day a week. Why is the Prime Minister so determined to avoid accountability?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, we were pleased to put out a broad discussion paper on how we can make improvements to the functioning of this House of Commons so that members can better hold the government to account, so we can move forward on legislation, so we can make better work-life balance for the many individuals with young families in this House, do a better job of working efficiently here in Ottawa while serving our constituents back at home. I'm excited to be launching an open conversation for all members of this House to participate in, and I encourage the members opposite to continue to contribute their thoughtful ideas to this process.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the Prime Minister's plan undermines the very principles of responsible and accountable government. The fact that the Prime Minister doesn't want to show up to answer questions more than once a week shows how little respect he has for Canada's Parliament. Now, as inconvenient as he thinks it is, Parliament is actually the seat of our democracy, and central to that is the role of the opposition. So can the Prime Minister explain to us why he's willing to undermine our system of democracy simply to get out of answering tough questions?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I'm always pleased to be here in this House to answer tough questions and easy ones like the member just asked me. The fact is...
Order. I'm having trouble hearing the answer. I know members are anxious to hear both the question and the answer. I ask members to cooperate and to maintain order. Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor.
I'm happy to highlight that we're always open to improvements and ways to be able to hold this government to account. In the UK, where the
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, what the Prime Minister is proposing, he's proposing to change the rules so he can actually silence the opposition. His plan is to restrict debate, shorten the work week, and limit his attendance to question period to 1 day a week. No one has ever attempted gutting accountability like this. So I'd like to ask him a simple question. What would he have done if Prime Minister Stephen Harper had proposed the same thing?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The previous government would not have put out an open discussion paper, would not have engaged with the opposition, have proposed months of discussion in committee on the best way to move on how to improve the functioning of this Parliament, the needs of Canadian members of Parliament.
The Honourable Member for Outremont.
As is often the case, we didn't actually get an answer to the question from the Leader of the Opposition. This Prime Minister is going further than Stephen Harper would have ever dared to do, and telling Canadians he only wants to show up in question period once a week. So I'm going to ask the question again. What would the Prime Minister's reaction have been if Stephen Harper had dared to propose what he's proposing?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, the way we are going about this is by opening a discussion, an open conversation with the members opposite about how to...
Order. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
We really could replace him with a cardboard cutout. And his peanut gallery would never notice the difference. To be clear, the Canadians believe that there's no problem with the Prime Minister taking a vacation, but Canadians do have a problem with the Prime Minister accepting illegal gifts, breaking the law, and then charging the taxpayers over $125,000. Does the Prime Minister honestly believe that paying back a mere $4,000 is enough when he blew over $125,000 of hard-earned taxpayers' money?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
The fact is, for the first time, we actually put in place. The other fact is,
why the fuddle-duddle won't he commit to the long-standing practice that you don't change the rules without unanimous consent?
Members know we can't do indirectly what we can't say directly. And I'd encourage them to be judicious in their choice of words.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister once expressed his admiration for the basic dictatorship of China. Well, now it turns out that he's trying to bring that dictatorship to life right here in Canada. He's trying to avoid any accountability to Canadians by limiting debate and by giving the Liberals unprecedented control over the House of Commons and its committees. And on top of this, he wants to give all his Liberal MPs Fridays off, and it turns out he himself only wants to show up to work one day a week. So, Mr. Speaker, why does the Prime Minister have such a blatant disregard for being held accountable to Canadians?
Honourable.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals say they want to make Parliament more predictable. The only thing predictable around here is that the Liberals will do whatever it takes, including rigging the rules, to avoid accountability. Predictably, the Prime Minister only likes to show up to places where it's all selfies, slogans, and superficiality, so when he finds an opposition instead of an audience, he predictably heads for the exits, since he loves to be loved. Will the Liberal whip demand his MPs start applauding the Prime Minister more often so that he could be predicted to maybe show up here for question period more than once a week?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the government or the House Leader introduced a discussion paper and then mere days later tried to ram that and is currently ramming that discussion paper through Parliament. This is not a discussion. This is not a conversation. This is a dictatorship. I implore the House Leader, I implore the government, all we are asking for is that we will all be able to come in agreement as precedent has set before any major changes are made. I'm asking the government to reset this horrid mess they've created and listen to all of us before any changes are made. This is unbelievable, Mr. Speaker, and there can only be one conclusion drawn. There's a quote, I'm sure the Prime Minister is very familiar. It's, "Solutions to important problems are decided not by party committee but by one individual." Well, you know who said that? Chinese dictator Chairman Mao. Well, you know what? Canada is not China. Canada is not a dictatorship. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is not the supreme emperor, so maybe he could do Canadians a favor, don't take another vacation, and don't come back until he's ready to stop acting like those dictators.
Continue to stand up to defend Canadians from the Liberal attack on democracy. Not only does that Prime Minister only want to have to show up to be accountable to Canadians one day a week, but I've never seen a more pathetic display of arrogance than I saw in question period today as he laughed and smirked as opposition MPs tried to hold him accountable for his actions. I can assure him, Mr. Speaker, that in the next election, Canadians will wipe that smirk right off his face.
Yes.